Hi everyone, welcome to video number 2 about rhetorical structure and devices. And what I think I'll do very quickly is just kind of remind you what we talked about last week without going into a lot of detail. We did review the rhetorical situation, and you all, just a reminder that for the rhetorical analysis, we're only talking about purpose and audience specifically. For Essay 2, we'll talk about genre and exigence and context. Essay 3, medium and media, plural for medium and media. And then Essay 4, the multimodal assignment will be modes of expression or multimodality. So we'll be studying the rhetorical situation all semester long, y'all. So if there are any terms on this slide that you need to look up, please do that. Or schedule a check-in meeting and we can talk about some of those things. We've talked about some structure, thesis and the 3 appeals, and we talked about dispositio and the various parts there. So I want to move into rhetorical devices, and I'm going to pause. Sorry, y'all, I have a bunch of itchy eyes lately. I think I have a little bit of an allergy. I apologize. I keep itching on my videos, but I'm going to keep going. I'm going to multitask. I'm going to itch and talk about rhetoric. So let's talk about the devices. Before I do so, I want to let you know that, gosh, almost everything we're talking about, you all, is related to the craft of writing an essay. There's the content of your essay, but to make it beautiful, to make it impressive, to make your reader amazed that you can work with words the way that you are, is to really stop and look at patterns. And I think rhetoric helps us, studying rhetoric helps us to do that, to slow down and look at the patterns that we find in our writing. And even in the video I've done for Module 3 on the templates for the essay, in talking about deductive argument and inductive argument, y'all, that is also related to patterns. We're talking about paragraph patterns and where things go and, what your options are. Because this is a good time for me to say there's not one way to write an essay. Not one way to write an essay well, many ways, so many ways to craft an essay to make it a beautiful piece of writing. And this is why I can be adamantly opposed to the 5-paragraph essay, because it's a formula that does nothing to help us to make essay writing beautiful. So stopping and looking at patterns matters a lot. And so that's what we're doing when we talk about rhetorical devices that really help to lift up your style in your essay writing. So there are 3 devices I want to talk about that are style related. They're also very pattern related. Schemes. Schemes are specifically about the syntax or the order of your sentences. And there's many different kinds of sentences we'll look at this semester. They also have to do with repetition and omitting or omission of something. So I'm not going to define all of these. Actually, I'm going to offer something at the end of the video. So keep on listening. We're only at 3 minutes, but I'll define a few. A syntodon is when you omit conjunctions, words like and, for, but, so. So when you are making a list in a sentence, often our pattern is to have 3 items in the list and have an and between the last, second to last item and the third item. So here's an example. For breakfast this morning, I had oatmeal, comma, pineapple, comma, and yogurt. So what a syntodon does is it omits the and you would have the list with just the commas. What this pattern does usually to a sentence is that it speeds it up because there are no extra words combining the nouns that you're listing out, or whatever it is that you're listing out. I think it's most impressive when it's in a sentence with a list that's a little bit longer. Maybe you're listing 4 or 5 things. So you might check this out. Y'all listen, I'm giving you this information late in the game for the rhetorical analysis, but not really. You haven't started your draft yet. You could definitely go back to your primary source and start looking for some of these patterns, sentence level patterns, to see what kind of what kind of writing the writer has done. I was about to say what kind of writer the writer is, because really, really fantastic writers are going to take the time to make sure their sentences have, you've heard teachers say this, have variety, but we're really looking for variety and pattern, and we're looking for pattern that does something at the time when important information is being delivered in the essay. And so, again, a sentence would speed up a sentence, but maybe there's a lot of stuff to list, so that list goes reads more quickly in the essay. Let's do 2 more here. Polysentodon is the opposite of the one that I just went over. It is the extra use of conjunctions. So same scenario, I have a list, but this time I'm going to omit all the commas, no commas, and I'm going to use my conjunction words in between the nouns. So this would really slow the sentence down. This morning for breakfast, I had oatmeal and pineapple and yogurt and coffee and cream, and then my list is going longer and longer and longer, but it really slows the sentence down. One more I want to talk about. So this is not related to punctuation or the use of conjunctions. Those last 2 examples were really grammar related, right? Anaphora is a kind of repetition at the beginning of a sentence, and the way I like to use it myself is to repeat in a place in my essay writing where I'm giving really important information, but I want to break that information down into several sentences, so I'm going to repeat the same, noun, verb, the same whatever, adverb, noun, verb. I'm gonna repeat the same words in the same order 2 times, 3 times. Maybe if I do it a 4th time, I might vary it up a little, but the pattern is still obvious. So this is something that's really, really common, especially in political writing, because, where there's emphasis on something, the speaker or the writer will usually use that repetition at the beginning of sentences. And so that's really important. The location of the repetition in Anaphora, it's at the beginning. All right, so I'm not going to define the rest because I have an offer for you at the end of the video. All right, getting close to 10 minutes, so my last 2 slides will be a lot faster. The second stylistic rhetorical device that you can use is tropes. There are many. I've only listed 3 here. The most common being metaphor and simile, and you all know that using metaphor and simile is pretty much making a comparison between 2 things to make the 2 things seem alike. Where simile makes it pretty obvious because of the word like or as, and metaphors are sometimes harder for people to pick up, but it's usually a comparison, right? So that we can see something as something else, feel that something is something else. Allusion is another one, and allusion is usually a reference to something in literature, something geographical, something historical, something sociological, and it's usually just a reference to the thing in the sentence. It can also be used as a comparison, but sometimes it's just a reference to something. I was reading a poem yesterday, and it was written in an Islamic context, and there were many references to the Quran, references that I don't know really well, but I knew that the allusions were there because they're often capitalized, and they're references to things that people within that culture would know. So, allusion is a great trope to use. All right, one more category here, you all, is patterns of sound. And I kind of set this list up myself. I mean, it's still related to patterns, but I wanted to keep the sound words related, the sound devices, I should say, related in a different category so that you can see the writer's intentional use of repeated sounds. We're talking about repetition again. As something to draw attention, drawing the reader's attention to a particular sentence or a particular part of the essay. And so you can look up any of these. Alliteration is usually just a repetition of consonant sounds. You can also call it consonants. Alliteration is really just the repetition of many of the same sounds in the sentence. Assonance is usually vowels. Sibilance is usually related to S sounds, Z sounds, and then you know what rhyme is. I want to call your attention to the end of Christoph's essay. There's a sentence in there near the end. I want to say it's either the second to last or the last sentence, but he uses a lot of B words altogether, a lot of S words altogether, And it really stopped me in my reading because there were these repetitions of sound. So I want to let you know, you again can go back to the primary sources and start looking for where the writers have used any of these devices. All right, I'm at the 10-minute mark. I'm almost done, y'all. Probably another 30 seconds. So now I have a list of commonly used rhetorical devices. I'm not going to define any of them because y'all look. I'm going to share with you a link to a Google Doc that has listed all of the devices, all of the stylistic devices that we've talked about today, according to the categories that you saw on my slides. And there's an extra credit assignment that if you choose, I'm going to make this kind of a big one. Let's do 2 from each list and send it to me via email. What I need you to do is to define what the device is and then find an example on the web of how it's used. So 2 from each category. So there's 4 categories: otherly commonly used, patterns of sound, tropes, and schemes. And then, so that's 10 extra credit points for definition and example of 2 of the devices from each category that is listed there. And then I'll offer an extra 5 points for an additional 2 tropes. So building the list in the trope category, because my list is pretty short. So that's the extra credit. Deadline for the extra credit. You'll email me the extra credit. Is this Sunday, February 6th. So if you're interested in the extra credit, please do that. Y'all have a great Module 3. Let me know if you have any questions about any of the devices that you're looking up. If you have any concerns about what it means, or you've looked at a few examples, you're still not quite sure how it's working, let me know. There are hundreds. We have a small section in our textbook that goes over a few, but it's really hard to study all of them. So I'm kind of just picking some ones that are pretty common and easy to learn and really easy for you to adapt to your own writing. I think you should start thinking about that as we move into some assignments where you are revising and designing your own writing. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you later.